Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Today I bring in my very good friend Ash Thompson. How you doing?
Hey Danny, good mate. Good, very, very happy to be here.
Excellent. This has been a long time coming. I think it's been 300 episodes plus, and I've not got you on the show. And we've known each other since 2015, I do believe. But I know I respect your privacy and the way that you operate. But I'm just pleased that we managed to get you on. So you're in China at the moment.
Yes, I am in my office in Shanghai at the minute. Can't wait to get back home.
How long have you been? How long have you been in the motherland, as they say?
I've been here for a month now, but I've been here 3 months in total this year, which is a lot.
Yes,
it's a record this year.
So you're traveling quite a bit at the moment, right? You don't base yourself too much in the UK. You like to work in a warmer climate as well, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we've chatted about it off screen before, but I've been testing different environments to live in because I find there's a huge difference in my health, my energy, and just mood and productivity as I live in different places. So I've been trying out different areas, whether it be going to Argentina and living in nature, or whether it be going to like Tel Aviv in Israel and living by the beach and going into the sea every day. I'm kind of just split testing, I guess, like life environment before I pick somewhere to settle down. Because one thing that I did realize was just that living in the UK, as much as I love it in the summer, the 5 months is pretty much 5 months of miserable weather. They're always difficult for me, and I didn't really enjoy the environment. So yeah, I'm kind of open to potentially moving now.
Yeah, totally agree. It's been a lifelong battle with my wife to move to a warmer climate. We're moving out to more into the country soon, but I'm with you. I'd rather work with a bit of sun on my back. And I tell you where I've been looking at, and I think it was Brent Zahrandnik who mentioned this. There's a middle part in France. I think it's Marseille. I'm not sure. I need to double check. But apparently they get over 300 days of sunshine a year.
Wow.
And so what he was doing is he wanted to base himself that was in Europe, so it's easy to get back and forth to people, and people can obviously visit them, but still need to have a little bit of an area which is cultured. There's a few expats where he's based as well, but yeah, I'm going to go and have a look. And I think once my daughter finishes school, then we can get the move abroad. But I'm totally with you. But let's talk about you. Let's go right back now. I'd like to just go a bit more in depth with you. So we've known each other since 2015. So can we tell me about your story, as you're growing up, your early formative years, what you are in terms of an entrepreneur, what kind of molded that?
Yeah, sure. It was I heard someone say that entrepreneurship is genetic. And it was funny because when I first heard that, I thought it sounds like nonsense. But at the same time, I remember even when I was as young as 8 years old, I always wanted to basically own multiple businesses. I don't know why, because it's not that my parents were into business. I didn't have any friends whose dads at that age were in business either. But I always felt like I had this desire to do that. I think ultimately it comes down to freedom and just like not having a limit ceiling, if you like, on doing a job. So I had that deep within me from a young age. And then as you kind of grow up, you go to university, you kind of make decisions on, okay, well, I don't really know how to do that. So maybe let me just do a few jobs. And I quickly found out that I wasn't cut out for working for other people. So I actually went into poker before I got into Amazon. It was a brilliant stepping stone for me because it enabled me to learn a lot of things like self-discipline, taking calculated risks, making decisions. And I really kind of had to grow up a lot from when I left university to when I actually went to play poker. And that was kind of a good training for getting into your own business, I think.
Yeah, makes sense. I was going to say we'll come on to that poker area in a while. So back when we met in 2015, I think you just finished at ASM, I think. I met you in London. You were speaking at Anthony Vaughan's meetup event. That's where I first met you. And I think even at that stage where you were talking things through, I think you was on like 30, 40K a month. I think you was up to maybe 2 or 3 products. But you've had like a rapid ascent since then. I mean, if you don't mind sharing, what's your current turnover across the businesses?
Last year we did 24 million, and this year we'll probably be doing around 35.
Yeah.
And I think next year, if everything goes to plan this Christmas, which fingers crossed, it should be around 50 or something next year.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, it's been a really kind of like roller coaster ride, to be honest, like trying to fast track everything. I think it's in my nature to kind of like push the boundaries of things and I take a little more risk, I would say, than most people,
Yeah.
which is good when the going's good. So hopefully it stays good.
Yeah. But that's the thing, bigger risk taking generally leads to bigger rewards as well. But like we said, is that some people, I think that's, like you said, like entrepreneurship about being built in, I think risk taking is built into someone. You either are a risk taker or not. I don't think it's very, you can't just take someone who's a complete non-risk taker and get them to really push the boundaries. I think there has to be something there. It's not just, there's growth, isn't there? You can grow from being more of a risk taker, but if you're an absolute non-risk taker, I can't see them making like that paradigm shift. So let's talk about some of these risks as well, because obviously there's levels of stress. I mean, let's take it back 2015, the what should we call them? Probably the golden years, the gold rush or whatever you like, where it's quite easy to rank products compared to today. So talk me back then. Let's talk about I don't know, giveaway clubs and stuff. I mean, obviously that's all stopped now, but that was big back then, wasn't it? Like we're talking back in 15, 16 or early 16. I think it was October that it changed, but it's a lot different than it is today. So talk to me about your first couple of products. You don't have to name the products, but, just a bit of background on, launches and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. So it's funny. I will tell you the first product that we did, because that's actually my partner that picked it. It was a silicone spatula set.
Yes.
And it's funny. I always tell people I'm still in the spatula game today as well.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it was an ongoing joke. The ASM used to promote spatulas, and everyone was saying that would probably be one of the worst products that you could ever get into. I think like everything else, it comes down to who can execute it well, and you can still make anything work if you can execute. But yeah, we did a lot of silicone products, and that just came down to the fact that we didn't have obviously any money to use savings that I'd had from poker to kind of live and invest. So we did candy molds as well at the time, so children could obviously like make their own candy from home. Parents could do it for them as well, where it's healthier candy, looking at the ingredients. So we did a lot of those products, and it was good. We were doing really well. We had a lot of we made a ton of mistakes, I would say, but we got into it at the right time, as you said. And so it was just so easy. I mean, you could do so many things wrong and you would still manage to like make money. And the giveaways and the ranking was like the easiest thing in the world compared to today. We had, I remember we used to have review groups and would give away maybe like 300 units for a review group. And within 3 weeks would have like 280 reviews, 5.0 rating, and would be kind of ranked for the top 2 keywords within 4 days or something like that. So yeah, it was really good times. It's funny because we had a lot of stresses back then of not having capital, stability, security, and team, things that we have now. But it was much easier in terms of the landscape than it is now.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So just going back to the whole spatula thing, I mean, what do you think differentiated you from making it a success back then? Because obviously it's a running joke. It's like garlic presses and all those, but people do it and they make a business out of it. Is it purely down to the deep pockets, timing, grandfathered in? What's your opinion on it?
I think the key to it at the foundational level is you've got to add more value than what the market's doing at the minute. So the easy way to do that is obviously just to add more pieces. If it's kind of as a set, or you can do like larger sets, or you can do different colors. But you've got to do something a little bit different. I never try and do anything which is exactly the same as the products that sell on the market. And I always try and make it to add more value. So if you're doing a smaller, I mean, it can be as simple as doing even a smaller set because you think that there's some of the quantity or some of the pieces are unnecessary, but ultimately it needs to be more value for the customer, whether that's price or based on the offering that you're doing. It needs to be a little bit different as well. And if you're going into a market which is very competitive, then obviously the level of differentiation needs to be higher for those markets. But honestly, back then, there just wasn't a lot of competition. We didn't have many reviews. We just popped it up, probably added a couple more pieces in the set, changed the color. And we had nice photos as well, which is really important for Amazon. So yeah, we did well based off the back of that.
Sounds good. And let's talk about finances and stuff. How were you able to take it from, your initial savings to, turning over 24 million today? What was how did you get through those stressful stages?
Yeah, good question. It was, we had a lot of different ways that we kind of did that. I think initially, so I probably had about 20, no, I invested about $5,000 of my own money, but I had another 10 that I was actually living off for a year. So I was living very tight for a year while I was investing that. As soon as we did pretty well off the first 5, I invested 5, partner invested 5. He actually put in a bit more money. So I think he put in 30 at the time. So we had kind of like 40 between us. Or I think maybe we put in 10 at each, 5, another 5. So it was 50 total. And we were doing really well. And then our particular business and partnership that we had then was kind of having some internal troubles, let's say. So I kind of looked at setting up a second business. And with this business, I actually reached out to friends and family to see whether they'd be interested in putting money into that. And I was very fortunate that my parents were looking to invest in a property. They actually invested 50 grand for my second business. And that was obviously great because we had within 6 months, then we had we kind of went from doing at the time, maybe 15,000 a month, 20,000 a month. And then 6 months later, as the first brand grew and the second account was open, we were up to doing 100,000 a month. And it's a totally different game when you're doing 100,000 a month in sales because your profits, you're generating a higher, you can start to kind of like pay bills, start to afford to bring on another person or two, and you can also grow the company. But still, it's still very cash flow intensive, this business. So after that, I realized that we still weren't growing fast enough. So I had a 40 grand loan that I did for like a private loan for the first year. And then the second year, because I made good on my loan, I paid back like 20% interest on that. The second year we got 100 grand from the same person. And then at the same time with the 100 grand, we actually structured it differently because the person wanted to be a partner in the business. I don't want to give away equity, but I was up for someone riding the upside as long as they also could take the liability for the downside if it went wrong. So we structured a deal, which I started to do more of, which was great, win-win for everyone that kind of got involved, was we basically got people to be like product investors. So they would put the money in, they would take the liability for the product. I would do all the research, and then I kind of lay out the plan and make that proposal to the investor or different products. I would show all the money that we need down to the promotions for the giveaway, breakdown, PPC for the first order. And then they could choose, they could even actually choose which products they would invest in, or they could just take like a portfolio of products. And that was a real game changer because we were able to then grow by taking on 150, 200 grand where we didn't have the liability, which is what we didn't really want to have for 200 grand at the time. So we scaled that pretty quick. And then from there, we were having very good results with one of the factories that I was working with, wanted me to sell more products. There was a bit of a conflict, so I couldn't actually sell for either one of the companies that I had because of the product we had sold initially caused a bit of like conflict between the companies. But we actually kind of like suggested maybe doing some consulting where I run the account for that factory, and in return I would get a commission, which would be a percentage of the profits. So I did that, and that was one of the best decisions that I ever made because both partners were happy. I took that brand to 6 figures in sort of 3 months, I would say, and that was all from about 8 initial products. And the beautiful thing with that, and genuinely at the time I thought this could happen, was that I built trust with someone that had a lot of I would say a lot of clout and capabilities in China. So that then there was this trust that was built between us. So we essentially kind of became partners. And obviously he wanted me to release more products, but I just told him, to be honest, that I couldn't. Doesn't really work like that with Amazon. You can't just release a whole catalog. You have to look at specific product opportunities. So I went back to him with a proposal that he could buy into one of my companies so I could cash out some monie, which I think everyone in Amazon is like very happy if they can do that. And then he came on and we kind of had this partnership, which has grown. And now we're actually, so I had 3 different companies and they're all being brought together now to form a group. And that the factory owner is now a kind of a partner in those three companies. But that way I was able to actually put in 2018 we actually put in or 2017, I should say, we put in best part of $1 million. And that's where we went from doing 500 grand a month to about 2.3 million a month, just off of the back of that kind of capital raise.
Incredible. So there's a lot of to and fro on the back end in terms of finances. You know, you're going around, you're raising funds, you're being clever with it. You're raising, but what's the best way to put it? You're raising debt money rather than giving up equity, right? So they win on the upside, but they don't have any ownership on the business. Them early days when they invested in the products. So you're able to scale off the back of those. And now you've got a series of partnerships where you've brought in one of the factory owners, which is again is a smart move. Like you said, you can't release just everything out the factory. Amazon's about supply and demand, of course. So not everything that they manufacture is going to work. So what does the team look like now? You brought this under, say, one group. How many staff have you got? You're based in China. What does this operational configuration look like at the top?
Yeah, we've got 36 people now in the team. So it's grown tremendously over the last year. We've got different departments. We kind of have like product development, customer service. We obviously have like HR, finance, and then on top of that, we have Amazon operations, which we kind of put supply chain and catalog management under that particular department. We kind of within those, we usually have departmental heads that sit at the top and kind of manage a lot that goes on. And then what happens is I interact with those people on a weekly basis most of the time. We kind of like feed goals down to the department, and then they kind of build a team. We kind of build teams for them that go underneath based on what we need to kind of get the objectives that we set.
Sounds good. And so Q4 is coming up, stressful time. How many products are you planning to launch in the final quarter?
It could be a lot. It should be a lot. It could be potentially 50, 60 products.
Wow.
But it should be minimum. Yeah, it should be minimum sort of 30, but it could be 50, 60. Yeah, it's going to be quite a lot. We've only got 50 at the minute. So it's to give you an idea, it's going to probably double our range if we do well.
Yes, that's incredible. So talk me through, you don't have to give away all the details, but talk me through how you launch 50 products at tremendous scale. You know, people struggle to keep their eye on a handful of products at the launch stage because of, they've got to think about PPC, review, acquisition, giveaway, all these kind of things that take place. There's so many moving parts. How does the 36 under you manage the 50 products being launched?
Yeah, good question. So we have essentially like a launch group that we have on Slack that we use for comms. And within that group, we'll have everyone that's involved with the launch. So we have like PPC manager, we'll have a launch manager, we'll have like a campaign manager that does kind of a lot of ads through Facebook and Google. And then on top of that, we've got listing manager that's in there, the inventory manager as well, because of the stock and stuff like that. And they're all going to sit inside that group. And then we have kind of a schedule for all of the products that are coming out. And then we also had someone in there as well for keyword research and setting up the listing in the first place. And I think, it's getting organized initially, which is like, okay, what products do we have? And let's plan this out so we're not launching 50 in 1 week. And then how do we make it work? So we actually stagger them. So at the minute, we've just been doing, say, like 2 or 3 a week. But for this Christmas, we're going to have to probably get another couple of people on board to help with the kind of the level of increase that we're going to have for the new products. But it's a case of just if you get your keyword research done, your listing set up and optimized, and then you know what keywords you're going to kind of target. And then we do a lot of stuff now through like Facebook as well. So we kind of have a ManyChat team. It gets like the information gets fed through to them, and we kind of have like a quota in terms of the number of units that we want to give away over the number of days, which is pretty standardized now, to be honest. Anyway, it doesn't vary too much from product to product. And then they will go on that, and then they'll report the information back through like a centralized dashboard. And that dashboard will get posted daily so that everyone's got their eyes on that dashboard, and we can see whether there's anything which needs our attention, whether it be the sales that we forecasted haven't come in, whether it be that our rankings aren't happening properly, whether it be that we're still not getting in any reviews anywhere near as quick as we thought we would. But everyone's kind of pulling together, and everyone has a defined role within the launch. But in terms of doing so many, I think, we're definitely going to have a couple more people to handle that, because it takes time at the end of the day to set up campaigns, to launch a product, to do keyword research. It takes hours of time per product.
Yeah, makes sense. And would you say your products also with the keyword research is reduced if you're doing slight different variants on the same products, or are they 50, not unique, but 50 different differentiated products? So when you are doing your keyword research, they fall in completely different realms, or is there crossover?
Oh, there's a lot of crossover, yeah, depending on how many products you have per niche. My strategy is to try and do as many products as we can per niche, just because it's more convenient for manufacturing and it makes more money. You can kind of like cover the market. So it makes sense, I think, from my perspective to do that. So in those cases, we probably have like 80 to 90% crossover between keywords for launching, PPC keyword research and stuff like that, KPIs that we're tracking. But this year is going to be a bit more unique in that we're also getting into multiple new categories. So it's going to be more important this year for sure.
Cool. And in terms of like, how do you manage, I think there's a big misconception. I don't know what your hit rate is, but I had Nick and Fernando on the show. They do about 30 million a year. I think they've got 70 staff in and around the world. And one of the interesting things they said to me is like, everything's not going to necessarily be a hit, no matter how hard you work at it. It's how you manage the downside. And they've got like a strike rate of around 55 to 60%, which I thought was really interesting. But they were able to march out the ones that didn't perform so well. And they do a similar kind of thing where they'll go in and saturate a niche. They don't care about cannibalization. They'll work out a way to make these products work as a composite whole. What's your strategy for a downside? If you don't, you've done your research, but it doesn't connect with the market, how do you manage those out of the business?
Yeah, I think we just try to lose the least amount of money as possible. I'll start by saying that we've probably only had 4 products that we lost money on in the last 5 years, which is obviously not a lot. Probably have about 50 that we've launched, so we probably have like a 90% kind of success rate. It depends on the strategy as well. So our strategy is slightly different from Nick and Fernando's.
Well, the guys anyway.
Yeah, they're good friends for sure, and they kind of they cast like kind of a wide net, and they're looking to pick up a lot of the low hanging fruit and just kind of like expand their catalog as quickly as possible and get in without having to be too competitive, without having to get too many reviews or invest too much money. They're just going to go in and pick up a lot of sales that way. So it makes sense. If you're kind of doing that, then there's not going to be naturally as much care that goes in per listing, and you're not investing as much in it, so the success rate is going to be lower. Whereas what we do is we try to have, and it just came down to, I thought it was more scalable, to be honest, to go after SKUs with a higher sort of revenue. So that's our strategy. But in order to actually, the SKUs of higher revenue are obviously more competitive. So in order to do well, we have to put in more attention for that. We have to go more aggressive. So we'll do that. Our first order is usually always like 4,000 or 5,000 units for a product that we go for. And in the occasions where it doesn't sell so well, we literally just decrease the price to the point where we're break even, or worst case, making a small loss, and we'll just sell it out and kind of like do it that way.
Sounds good. So if you don't mind, what do you think is the secret to your success in terms of the research? Is it just coming down to the grind of doing absolute in-depth research and just covering every possible angle?
Yeah, I think the product selection and the product research is the key to this business, because you can do everything else right. And if you have a bad product, you're never going to do well. And the same thing, if you have a great product, you can do well no matter what you do in some cases as well. So I think, it's just it's kind of being obsessive over that. I think I'm just really passionate in general about like the whole Amazon business. It's like a giant game to me, and I love it. So I go on Amazon like every day. I'm literally looking at listings, and even like with the keywords, maybe I'll do it on the lunch break, and it's not that I spend long, but maybe I spend 5-10 minutes. But every day I'm checking a few keywords for 5-10 minutes on Amazon.com, like every single day. And I do it I do it because I enjoy doing it, but I study the competition. I see what they're doing. I go into storefronts. I look in the top sellers. I look in new releases. I'm always on the lookout to see what does well. And when I see someone come into a niche that I thought was maybe saturated, I start to watch that seller. I'll buy their product. I'll see what they're doing, because I think that success leaves clues, as Tony Robbins says. And I think that you always want to be on the lookout for the next big thing. And that's one of the keys. But you got to be able to find good products on Amazon. And it's one of those things that if you can't, I think you can delegate it out. We've been doing quite a bit of it. This year was the first year we started delegating to get ideas to come in, because I think ultimately you're going to be bottlenecked if you're doing it yourself. But initially it's really important, and that's the kind of work that you should be doing yourself, unless you really dislike doing it. And in that case, you've got to find someone who's good at analyzing data, so that you can start doing the number crunching and find out what are the best opportunities to go after.
Yeah, no, I agree. I hate product research, hate it, just with an absolute passion. So I passed that out. What I do like, though, is doing what I call a teardown. I've got products sitting there. I won't show it because it will be on screen, but I've got 4 or 5 products sitting there. Whereas if I look at a product on Amazon, I'll go and buy all the best sellers. And then what I do is I shoot a video and do a breakdown for the team of each, testing them, like if they're I don't know, the topical product, whatever, you're smelling them, you look at the packaging, all that kind of stuff. I record a video and then I send that off to be written up as notes, as bullet points. And then we can go in and we'll do on top of the keyword research and stuff. But I think a big thing that people miss, and like what you just said, you triggered, is you'll go and buy the competition's product. I think that's a really key thing. The amount of people I've seen that will only buy samples of the product that they want to get. So they do their keyword research on the tool. And then they'll only buy the samples of the product and live in complete isolation. They won't buy all the competition's products. They wouldn't say, all right, what does the insert say? What packaging do they use? What are they using on the labels? What are the icons? What's this? What's that? And I find that very, very surprising. And I actually sat down with a lot of successful sellers in China, and they were saying about with the competition, it's like, I said, look, you nail the competition. The West can't keep up with you guys in terms of ranking and everything else. Like you set the tone here, whether that's on the black hat side or not. You know, you got some sophisticated sellers in China. I said, but one of the biggest things I think you forget is that quite oftentimes you're assuming that everyone wants a cheaper product, therefore it's the product's cheaper to make. And I think that's where it sometimes fall over. And sometimes you get a tag that, oh, we don't want to buy products from China because they're not very good, etc. But I said the step that you miss is you're not going and buying all the Westerners' products and studying them and trying to make a better version, you know?
Yeah, and I think this ties back into what you were saying earlier when you were talking about risk. Because when I take risks, I'll take calculated risks. So like whatever it is for finance, I'm trying to get other people to kind of have the liability for that, like kind of limit my downside by them having the liability for product investment. I think when it comes to product research, there's just a checklist of things that you got to do, and you got to do it no matter what, basically. And one of them is a pattern check for the products, no matter how standard or whatever you think they are. Because if you have a product which goes, I've heard horror stories where they go to Amazon, they have a patent, and then you can't sell the product, and that's how you can lose a lot of money. And it's really kind of like pretty simple to do. But yeah, so pattern checks one. You got to check the samples from different suppliers in China, multiple. So we try and go for sort of like 5 to 10 different suppliers. I don't just want to get like 1 or 2. And then obviously you got to order the samples from the competition as well, because it's only when I actually have the samples in my hand and I'm looking at, say, product 1, I'm looking at product 2, and I can see that our product is better than the one on Amazon, that's what kind of makes you sleep at night. You've tested the product, you know the quality is better, and therefore you're happy to pull the trigger on a $50,000 order for a product you've never sold before, because you've seen the competitions and you know that yours is better.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I think, and that gives you more insights. And like, even though I've got a researcher now who will sit down and do the analysis of reading every listing, go through all the reviews, pull out the key points. Because what I like is they end up being a 16 or 17 page document. And what I want at the bottom is key bullet points that I can give and raise a PO based on those bullet points of what the product outcome would it be. You know, if someone says, you know, all of these products are 100 mil, you put out saying it's 200 mil. All of these products smell this way. Well, then you want to do the opposite, or you want to follow slightly that pattern because that's what the market demands. Do you know what I mean? So you can read all of that stuff and have that document, but until you sit down and you line up all your competitors' products and you sit there and you test them, you really don't know. Like, I got some stuff delivered yesterday, not these ones I got here in the room, but downstairs. I haven't tested them yet, other than I went in, I just opened them all, and there was one that stood out, like, completely. I opened it, smelled it, I went, that is it. This is the product that I need to beat if I'm going to get anywhere in this market, because all these other guys, as good as they were like in photographic mode, this one eats the competition. They're just, you know, when products are just head and shoulders above. And the only way of finding that out is to see every step what someone's doing. I like to look at their inserts. I like to read their labels, because I get ideas off labels as well, you know, certain icons, you know, it could be, for instance, cruelty-free logo, anything like that is always going to work out to your benefit if you can sell that and get that across. You know, if it's a topical product and it's vegan friendly and stuff like that, these are all real key attributes that you try and build in. So when I'm doing product research, you don't always have the budget, but I always want to go bigger, better, improve on the price and everything else. And then I start there. And then when I get my first quote back from the supplier, you're looking at it and you're going, right, that's a bit expensive because you've thrown everything in. Do you know what I mean? And then you have to pick a way of what is affordable to meet that target market price for your profit. So where do you get to that stage where you've seen the product, you like it, you've bought it, you're going to spend 50K, you work at a different scale, you go for more, shall we say, more competitive products into competitive market. What are the 3 key touch points of you to hit the button?
I think, yeah, it has to be the ROI has to be good. So we recently changed the ROI for our metrics because I think that was one of the issues. We never really had great cash flow. So now the products that we're doing have to be kind of like 100%. We have to double our money. That's the landed cost. We have to make that in profit for when we sell the product. That's the first kind of requirement. And then the second one I would say is it has to have like a 20% differentiation factor. And it's quite hard to, it's it has to be different enough that the competition is going to do well. But I think for me, that will do well against the competition. And I think for me, it has to be a market as well where I see that there's at least 3 sellers, 2 to 3, I would say, people that are doing pretty well, that I don't think they're that impressive. Maybe the number of reviews or their listing quality or their ability to rank for keywords isn't very well. But those are all kind of the things that I look for, along with testing, samples, pattern check, that kind of thing as well. Drop test for packaging is another big one as well. Yes,
good idea. Yeah, I didn't mention that. That is a very good one. I think people get caught out there. So talk to me about reviews. Like, I think from my understanding, reviews play a big part in your end of the business because of being competitive. But have you actually took a step back and really analysed the importance of reviews? And do you feel that people overinvest in the volume reviews, overcompensate because they assume that is the metric? Do you find that people overcompensate? You know, like everyone goes, right, we need hundreds of reviews because they've got hundreds of reviews. Like all the tests I've seen and what's been carried out, there is a certain threshold where people reach in terms of the trust level to select your product on reviews. Do you think that people overcompensate on the amount of reviews that they need to get when selecting a product? Or do you think that is paramount because you work in mainly super competitive markets?
Yeah, it comes down to the goals that you have for the product. So there's many markets that you could get into where there's actually like a ton of revenue and the top sellers have thousands of reviews, but you could just be the 10th. You could be the middle of page 1 and you could still make good money. So it depends what your goal is. But if you want to be the number 1 seller in that niche, then in general, you're going to kind of need the best reviews with the best review ratings. So the review count and the review rating is going to have to be up there. Yeah. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult unless you can add a ton of additional value and sell it at a similar price. In that case, you can do it. So I think, the reviews are definitely really important. A lot of customers go on those for sure. We noticed that as they change, we have huge impact in our sales and ranking. I think, to answer your question as well, when we're kind of launching a new product, I think that we find that when we get to 150 reviews, that's kind of a good foundation where it doesn't matter too much more if we go 150 to 250 or 150 to 350. However, it's subjective to the niche that you're in as well. So if all the people in the niche are doing have 1,000 reviews, then you're probably going to need at least 500 to kind of get your skin in the game. But what I would say is that if you're so you'd need that. But if you have a differentiated product, then maybe 150 is going to be good enough. Yeah.
Makes total sense. So let's talk about where things are going for you. I mean, you had big aspirations. You've grown the business. If you don't mind sharing, do you want to tell us what your target is in terms of where you're getting to? You're on your way, hopefully next year, be 40. Where's the end goal looking?
Yes. I'd say the Grant Cardone talks about this rule of 10x. So kind of taking a goal or taking where you're at and 10xing it. And I really like that concept because it gets you to, I did it when I was doing 100 grand a month. And I remember in July 2016, and I said, I would like to do 1 million a month. And it just sounded like so crazy and beyond me at the time. That I thought, I don't know how I'm ever going to get there. But then within a year and a half, I was there. or a year or so I was there, and I was like, wow, because I started thinking differently about the business. So now, like I said, now we're at 20 sort of 5 last year. So I set the goal of 250. And it's not that I need to hit 250 million, but I just like the way it makes me feel when I think about how I could hit that. So now in the back of my mind, like I'll finish my day and I'm going back home, or I'm in the car or something like that. I'm in the elevator, and subconsciously I've got this this kind of like tape that's playing, which is kind of it's trying to find ways and think for me how can I get to 250 million. And it's also it's filtering the current things that I'm doing, the business that I have, the team structure, and you can very quickly say, hey, you might have thought this was good, but this is never going to take you to the 250 million. Or the kind of things that you're handling now. If you want to get to 250 mil, you should never be handling those things. So you can kind of make a lot of decisions off of that big goal. But so yeah, that's the goal for me. But it's just, I think the fun is actually growing, obviously the journey, and growing and becoming the person you need to become in order to hit that goal rather than obtaining the goal itself.
Makes sense. So talk to me about these changes. I mean, sometimes people see this is quite fluffy. They talk about mindset, because I think we've got a situation where, especially in our space, you've got loads of crooks trying to flog you based on mindset and sell your courses and stuff like that. There are lots of charlatans, right? But mindset is so important. And I think that it makes that difference in that jump. Where do you... Talk me through your business in terms of mindset. Like, let's talk about 215, where your mindset was there, then 16, 17, 18. How did that shift for you?
Okay, so when I started in 2014, my goal was to do $1,000 a week in like income. So 4,000. I was like, wow, can you imagine making like $4,000 a month passive income? Because that was the kind of the lie or the dream that we're all sold in a way, that it would be passive. I mean, it's not a lie. If you wanted it to be passive for a couple of years, you could build something up quickly and leave it, and you would make passive income for a couple of years. But most of us know that it's not going to remain passive for long. That's why we keep working to kind of get to the next level, and the competition gets stronger and things like that. But yeah, it always goes up in stages. And then I was like, wow, I'd have to make like $10,000 a month, like profit. I remember thinking at the time, if I make $10,000 a month profit, I wouldn't even want to make any more money. Like, that would be crazy. Or I saw like the ASM, remember they had those badges, and it was like the 50K badge. And I was like, damn, can you imagine being one of those people that has that 50K badge? And then you kind of get there and then you say, well, what about like the 250? But I think, and I think for me, I'm always willing to invest. And I think that was the big thing that I realized. If you want to have a big company, I think you've got to invest in yourself and also in the team. It was one of two ways. I noticed that when people don't have anything, everyone's hungry, because it's really easy to be hungry when you're broke, because you're in survival mode. But I noticed there's two different types of people. And one of them are people that when they actually start making a few grand a month, they kind of go, well, this is cool. I'm going to go travel the world. And nothing wrong with that. I totally respect the people that want to do that. It just comes down to different goals. But there's also another type of people, I think, which then they just say, wow, this is great. Now I've actually got this. Imagine if I could now put some people in place and they could do this for me. Imagine what I could do then. Or imagine if we would now invested this money and released 5 more products and they were just as profitable as the first one. And it kind of like always inspires you to grow. So that's kind of the attitude that I have. So I always, as we're growing, I just get more and more hungry, to be honest, because I see how much more potential there is. Like now we have 36 people in the team and we're doing like millions of dollars. So there's so much more money that we can reinvest. If I'm not the opportunity cost of me going away on holiday for or just traveling for a month and not thinking about the business is huge compared to when I started in 2015. And I'm thinking as well, you're investing a lot of money now in the team. So if I'm not leading the team, I may as well just be throwing my money down the drain. I'm literally paying for these people. It's no secret that people need to be led. They need to have kind of like good communication, clarity, goal setting, and those things. And so I'm actually working harder. That's the ironic thing, was I thought it would be, I'm going to work less as I get into this business, but I'm actually kind of working more now just because of the kind of the potential that I see, and the level of motivation has just gone up.
Yeah. So you seem to love the journey, as cheesy as it sounds. You seem to love that part, because there's nothing flashy about you. You don't wear like flashy watches, drive flashy cars. You don't do that whole thing. You're very like laid back kind of guy. You pop up every so often. You're very focused on your business. Outside the money, because at the end of the day, they're just zeros. There's just zeros and ones sitting there. What is there anything purposeful above that you want to do? Like, do you want to solve certain problems in the world or anything like that? Is it going to take you get to your 250 million, you cash out some of your chips? I can't see you sitting on the beach. Sorry, I know you like vitamin D, but I can't see it. So is there a bigger goal on beyond that as well, that you'd be able to use some of that wealth for something else?
Yeah, for sure. I think, okay, there's two things. One of the things that really drives me is I had a lot of health challenges, still having health challenges as well, to be honest with you, which I'm making great progress towards. But yeah, it's kind of like kind of an autoimmune chronic fatigue syndrome, which comes from a lot of inflammation in the body. I know that we've talked about it quite a lot. There's a lot of things nowadays in the environment that we have, and then you pick up sensitivity to food. I'm sensitive to working on laptops, which is funny because I picked the wrong business for that. But there's all these things that you can be sensitive to, and I kind of, I think it's getting bigger and bigger as a problem, this health crisis that we're all kind of going through. I think a lot of people are not happy with where their body's at, but even more, there's a lot of people that are not actually just happy, period. And it comes down from kind of mental health that people have as well. And I've just been on this journey for 10 years. Like, I made a promise to myself when I was 21 that I would literally do whatever it took to get really fucking healthy. And I mean, like, really healthy. And for me, that means like waking up in the morning, like jumping out of bed, like wanting to sing because I feel so good. And it's just kind of like anything that I do is kind of like I just kind of do it with most of the stuff. 80% of the time I'm going to do it with a smile on my face because I just feel like I'm vibrant. That's kind of the goal, because what I realized is when you have energy, you actually have everything, and even the biggest problem kind of seems like a blessing when you have energy, or it's not even a problem. But when you have no energy, even the smallest thing can feel like you're totally drained, you're overwhelmed, you can't do anything in the world. So I'm pretty obsessed, I would say, with like health and energy, and it's been way more challenging than building an eight-figure business for me as well. So that's kind of my goal. Is I'd love to, I feel like a lot of people that kind of recover from health, they're not very entrepreneurial. So I would like to recover, get really healthy. And then I would like to kind of take the knowledge. I see this as kind of an internship for business that I'm doing now with this Amazon business. I'm learning how to build teams and things like that and run a business. I'd like to take that and take it to the health industry. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is I'd say I'm more of, I've always had like kind of vision. I would say like I'm very futuristic. So I like to spend time thinking about the future and visualizing things that I want to bring into reality. If I didn't get, I wouldn't have to get paid for it at all. I would just do it all the time naturally. But my weakness, I think when I'm losing money is when I'm actually on a laptop. Because I think I kind of pride myself in being able to see the big picture and think about things and make decisions. So when I read the book of like Sir Alan Sugar or Sir Richard Branson, they've got their business empires and they're just kind of flying around the world, having meetings, making decisions. I bet they kind of like, I don't know how much time they spend on a laptop. They probably do because we can't live without one. But I mean, they're definitely not doing that much of their business on the laptop, and they probably even have people taking care of their emails and everything like that. So for me, that's I would love to be in that position. That's what I'm working towards. I want to have like a team that kind of is always around me, supporting me, and I want to be able to kind of like take the ideas that I have here and then just like bring them into reality by just delegating that one off. Okay, what about this? Boom, implemented. Speed of implementation for the ideas. So that's kind of the dream for how I see my life when I'm in my sort of late 30s, 40s.
Sounds good to me. And I'm with you. We've discussed our health issues for years. I'm starting to recover as well. And I think how dangerous you could simply be if you were full scale. Imagine what you could do is if you didn't have the health issues. Because I find with the same with me and same with you, is we've gone alongside each other and improved our health, right? When you improve your health, you're more productive, you get more stuff done, like you said. But could you imagine where the pair of us would be in different areas if we didn't have the health issue? Because don't forget, when you've got health issues and you're always researching and you're working with different doctors and things like that, that takes up time. And so that makes you think about, right, I need to book that appointment and I need to order that supplementation. I need to do this and that and everything else and research that. That is time that you could be spending on something else if you were in perfect health. And I think you'll be the same. if someone said to me, Dan, tomorrow I'll give you the absolute cure, but you have to give me every bit of money you got now, and then you'd have to start again, I'd give them every penny. Honestly, I'd give them my home, everything for my health, because I know how to get it all back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm with you as well.
Yeah. So got on a bit of a deep run there, which is all good. So what does your day look like nowadays as someone who sits atop of the empire, should we say, team of 36? You're talking about the thought process, the stuff that you go through in a day to day. I can't imagine you running around too crazily. You've got people to do them bits because you need that time to think. So what does a day look like to you now?
If I'm being honest, it still is like organized chaos. I mean,
Really?
It's like, I think it was funny actually. I had one of the my employees yesterday said about it, where she said, "Oh, I understand why Gary V says that his job title was a firefighter." But yeah, it's kind of like you always have problems that come up, but just like taking care of those problems. So I'd say for the most part, I'm spending a good 30% of my time is like trying to get the ideas that I have and then put them to the team in the departments and kind of work with the team and train. So at the minute, we're kind of building out our product development department. So I've been here in China, spending a lot of time here doing that. And at the same time, we're building out the finance department now as well. And then we're also kind of like really trying to take our our competitive edge to the next level. So we kind of have like a product optimization department as well. So I'm kind of like working with all of those different departments to kind of just, I need to get everything that's out of my head. I need to give it to them so that they've got it, and then they can kind of like run and make decisions on their own. Which I'd love nothing more than everyone to be able to kind of run all the different areas without me. But this is, we only had 10 people in April last year, and now we're on 36. So it's been really quick expansion, fast growth. So I spend a lot of my time there. And then I'd say I spend at the minute another 30% of my time on actual really important stuff. So the last month has been product development. So I've actually been back in the trenches doing the product development and also trying to kind of like really think about how I can standardize this process for the team, because I didn't really appreciate just how many different areas there are, how many things you have to check off the list, whether it's like patents, samples, like 2 lots of samples, looking at like checking the BSR over the last year, 60 days, first order quantities, looking at how you can differentiate, looking at review ratings for different products. What are the issues? How can we fix the issues? How can we add more value? Talking to suppliers back and forward with the team. How can we negotiate? What price should we be paying? How can we get a better price? How big is the packaging? Can we make?
You're giving me decision fatigue just listening to you. So, which is going to be my next thing, because I thought you're at a stage. If all honesty, I've addressed the question like, oh yeah, I'm sure you sit there and you're thinking all day, but you're not. You're still calm on the surface, swimming underneath. So, what do you do in terms of like that was quite overwhelming when you're just going click, 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 going through all those things. We understand there's a concept of the decision fatigue. So how do you avoid that level of burnout on a daily basis? You've got 36 staff now. Like you said, you've got all these ideas. How do you pull back, isolate, and distribute the right information at the right time without the fire hose?
Yes. But I've got 2 executive assistants to start with, which that really helps for sure. One with me in person and one remote. So I think delegating as much work as you can straight away. And always when I make a list, I've got a list of all the stuff I need to do. I always look at what I can delegate and see if I can just actually give that out to start with. And then I start looking at the other areas. And so with the team, for example, I've really seen that if you're just not there for your team, you're not working with them or not training them, the morale just goes down after so many weeks, or they just don't have the right input. So there's kind of there's kind of an optimal time. You don't want to spend too much, because then you're not actually doing the stuff that you need to, or the big picture. And then you need to spend time thinking on big picture. So I would say at the minute, I was going to say third of my time on big picture stuff, thinking about the future and making things better. Third of my time with the team now, like training them towards the bigger picture. And a third of my time still actually doing stuff that's important, that's hard for me to delegate out, where I kind of have this gap between what I know and what the team knows. So I'm actually doing some of the things still myself as well. Yeah.
And again, on the health thing, do you have morning rituals, special, like you still, do you eat keto? Do you do mindful work in the morning, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've been through so many different routines, it is funny. But I'll be totally honest. For me, I'm not a morning person at all. It's really, in general, I've always had issues with falling asleep at night, and I fixed that. I would say November last year, the first time that I kind of fixed insomnia for like 18 years, which was crazy. It was huge kind of like moment for me. But yeah, every morning when my alarm goes off, 95% of the time, I have a second alarm, and I just literally, I need to snooze. I need to snooze for like 20 minutes. I'll even plug in like Life Flow, where it's like rainfall, and then I just close my eyes, ear mask is back on, and I just relax. And that 20 minutes, it feels like, I feel like when I wake up, it's like one of those snow domes, and that's my mind with, like, after it's been shaken with all the snow everywhere. And I'm like this, I'm going around, I'm disorientated. But when I actually have the 20 minutes in the morning where I just don't do anything, the eye mask is on, I'm listening to the tones, that really grounds me and centers me. So that enables me to kind of start my day. So it's funny, I always start my day by snoozing in on the first alarm. But there's a lot of things I do, I would say, throughout the day or in the evening. So my evening routine is going to be a lot stricter in general, which is I have to avoid I have to kind of have a break from working for a few hours before I go to bed now. I have to be pretty strict with it because I had huge insomnia issues that if I'm on a laptop, on a screen, it just really kind of comes back. But yeah, I try and have a break before. I don't eat, say, a big meal now 2 hours before bed either. I have a device called a Nucalm, which basically kind of like relaxes the whole nervous system, stimulates the parasympathetic, and does that. I wear red blue blocker glasses in the evening as well. I've got an acupressure mat that I lie on. I've got a bunch of I've got a bunch of like kind of neurostimulating devices as well that I wear. I've got a chili pad which keeps my bed cool. I've got a beamer mat which I lie on, which basically puts your body in the ultimate vibration for like EMF kind of thing, electrical frequency. So I've got all this other stuff that I do, but it's mostly in the evenings because my mind, as you can probably tell, it goes like 100 miles per hour. So the biggest issue is actually getting started in the morning, where I just need to be soft and gentle myself, eating breakfast, which, I mean, I'll come to that in a second. But yeah, and in the evening, I have to put in a lot of time to slow down my mind so I can actually relax, fall asleep, so I can wake up and do the same thing again tomorrow. And for diet, I did 2.5 years where I was doing like intermittent fasting. So I was following principles from Bulletproof. I was having coffee every morning, lots of tea, never sleeping at the same time ever, but I had a ton of energy because I was running on adrenaline and caffeine. And I was doing great. I was flying for a while. It was really good. I thought this was the best thing that come to me. And then last year in August, I just crashed. I crashed really big time. And it didn't matter what I did. My eyes were hurting when I looked at a computer screen, and I genuinely thought, shit, I might have to just sell my business, get what I can get for it and get out, because it was like that for 2 months. And I was seeing different specialists, and there's one of the guys I know that you've had a consultation for like optimization and gene profiling, that John, I kind of saw him, and he told me that, dude, you got to stop fasting because you actually have a gene mutation, which means that you don't break down adrenaline or dopamine very well. And he said that when you fast, your cortisol goes up and you don't break down cortisol. And he said, and like, you're having low carb, but you need to have more carb. And he said, and you're having caffeine and you can't have caffeine. And he said, you're having tea, which has catechins, and you can't have that. And I'm like, it was like all these new things that he said, but I just followed his advice. I said, okay, I don't like the sound of it, but I hate how I feel. So I just followed his advice. And it was like I started to actually sleep and feel better. And I had to tweak a few things. But yes, my diet's totally changed. Now I stick to principles. If I'm in one place, I'll try and have like grass-fed meats. If I'm going to saute, it's always done with like coconut oil or ghee. I'm trying to have a lot of like steamed vegetables. But I have carbs now, again, pretty much every meal. But I have carbs in the morning, white rice nearly every morning. Listen to a guy called Jack Cruz, and I take oysters as well in the morning when I'm in one place. I can't stand oysters as well, so that's the level of commitment that I got right now.
It feeds back into like if you didn't have health issues, your evenings wouldn't necessarily be spent doing all these things. And do you see what I mean? Like you have to, you struggle to get up in the morning, which is fine. A lot of people suffer that. For me, I wake 4, 3, 4, 5, I don't have alarm, and that's just me. Some people are night people, some day people. but you're still like have to invest at the end of the day to dial down just so that you can go to bed. Could you imagine what you could do with that time on other things if it wasn't just focused around keeping like optimizing your health? There's a difference between resting and investing in your health so that you know you can work again tomorrow and the day after.
Yes. I think there's two ways to look at it. And I do definitely go to that place, but I try not to look at it that way. I mean, I always used to tell everyone that I feel like I'm 20% of my potential. But I think I kind of reframe, and I think genuinely that if you didn't have so many health issues, I'd probably just be, I mean, I don't know, but I could just be one of those guys that eats fast food. I used to eat a lot of fast food, drink a lot of alcohol when I was younger, and I generally didn't care. I would lie in bed watching TV and have bad sleep and stuff like that. But maybe I'd be one of those guys. You know, you just don't know, because it's your whole history that makes you who you are. And I think that I'm so hungry in life and determined and motivated because of the experiences that I've had. And so I think that if I can get my health great with this kind of hunger that I have now, things will be really good. If I hadn't been through this, I don't know where I'd be. So I kind of think that it's as long as you get through the other side, I kind of see it as a blessing. But at the time, it's obviously tough at times trying to go through things.
Yeah, but I mean, your health now, like even from our conversations, it's since I first met you, and the same as me, you've got to a stage where 60-70% better. So you're getting less of the downside, you know, that you had before with the fatigue and the resting up, because you're finding everyday little things that improves it and it adds to the top end. Is that right?
Yes. I tell you a really good tip actually for people
Cool.
is avoiding blue light in the evenings, which most of us probably know about.
Yeah.
But even red light is very stimulating as well. So I have one of my screens, see if I get this up really quick, but you see on my screen there, it's like a red. So that's the red filter that you can have to go on your screen. But even what I would find is that even if you're on your phone at nighttime, it kind of like stimulates and you can't sleep. So if that's you, there was an app that we just installed called Flipped, FLIPD. And this app basically allows you to kind of like shut off your phone for a number of hours. So I don't have the willpower. I get to the end of the day, I know that going on my phone is bad for me, or checking out social media or doing any of those things, or replying to people that I didn't have time to during the day. But I don't have the willpower to stay off my phone when it gets to like 8 p.m. and I've just used all my decision-making power, as you said earlier. So I actually got this app now, and when I'm on my way home, I'll just kind of like boot it up and put 4 hour. So I'll have 4 hours or 8 hours. So I just don't even have that. It's like taking the cookies out of the kitchen. You know, you don't even have the temptation to do it. And that was being a really big game changer for me.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. So let's talk books. What's been most inspiring book you've read that would be beneficial to the audience?
I think, Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins was like the best book that I ever read on kind of like motivation. It was a huge book, like 530 pages. But it just totally blew my mind and changed my paradigm on what was kind of possible. He's really good at articulating things, but he just says like there's essentially, he calls you out on your biggest limiting beliefs, which are actually pretty universal. You know, most people are like that you're not good enough, or that you can't do something, or a person like you never gets to make it to be big, or any of these things that are actually universal, but we all think are quite personal to us. And then when you actually hear him say it, you're like, wow, actually it's really that common. And then he kind of has a ton of examples and stories which disprove the whole belief. And I think as you see those, and then it just starts to really open up your mindset, and you think, shit, like I can actually do, you're only limited really by what you can kind of like in your imagination. That's kind of the limit that you have.
Makes sense. Worst piece of advice you've ever been given?
I think probably just the accepting, is done with love, but people that kind of say like, it's kind of like kind of being accepting of
normal,
of where you are, or genetic, or like things. Yeah, I think people always thought that things told me, oh, it's probably just the way you are. You know, that's the way you are. You're born that way. And I think I kind of, I think a lot of the time I always felt that was the case when I was young, and I didn't take action because that belief was imprinted in me of like, oh, it's the way I am. You're born this way. You're born with certain genes. You're born with a personality. But I think, actually it's kind of like, you have predispositions towards it, but we've actually found out now that we can change a lot of those things. So that was one of the bits of advice, for sure.
Cool. So is there anything you would like to add before we go?
Yeah, yeah, because we covered. It's funny, we kind of got onto the side topic of health and that quite a lot. But going back to the Amazon business, kind of the checklist of things that I would say that I tell people to think about is always try and think big, and not because you have to hit that goal, but it just changes your thought process. So doing that, and a lot of people get paralyzed from kind of like analysis paralysis. So I think just taking action, don't be perfectionist. A lot of people are just too scared to start something because they don't think it's perfect. And that's the kind of mindset that will get you stuck for a long time. So for example, finding the perfect product, like you never find the perfect product. So just basically get in and learn something. Reinvesting, I think, in yourself, your health, building relationships. As it relates to Amazon, I think networking is really big.
I'm going to say that we should cover this. Let's talk networking for a moment. I mean, you've established, like, we've got a lot of the same friends as well. I mean, I think, if you don't mind me saying, you're in a mastermind, but it's for 8-figure sellers. Is that right?
Yes.
And
I kind of got mine.
How did that impact on your business now? Obviously, we've been in the same masterminds years ago and stuff, but you're in this 8-figure league now. So this mastermind, these group of people you're operating with, what has been the biggest shift there for you?
Again, it sounds funny, but it's just like mindset. I think for me, I'm very competitive as well. So show me a human being that has achieved something, and if I can like touch them, I'm there in a room and I can see it and I can touch them, and they're just like, I'm just like, I can do it too. They've done it. I can do it. So when you put people in a room like that, you have a lot of people that they all specialize in different things. So you've got some people that are really good at team building, some people that are really good at listing optimization, some people that are really good at raising capital, some people that are like PPC ninjas. And I just love it because you're able to take the best from different people and have this compound effect on how you run your business. But it just takes you to the next level because there's areas that you're weak, and I'm open and honest about areas that I'm weak with, I would say, in the business, or where someone's doing much better than me. But if that happens when I'm in one of my events, then I don't want to be in the same position the next event saying I'm still doing a bad job at doing this. Like, I want to take it to the next level. Yeah. So I think, it's huge. And it's not easy to come by. I think, you got to go with people that kind of like stretch you. Ultimately, and so that's what I've kind of done by creating my event.
Sounds good. Progress or perfection, what do you choose?
Progress, always.
But there is a
lower standard,
but there is like, I mean, for me, like, knowing you, I think you have a level of perfection. You have demands and standards. You're not a shouter, but you're very specific in what you want. Where do you draw the line under that, where progress is great, but then the perfection end is not being perfected at any point? Does that not like get on your nerves? Do you have a big issue there when things are not done right for you?
No, I think, you have to let go of that. So that was one of the big things as well as my tip to other sellers, is you kind of got to let go of this, like needing to control everything and everyone in the company, because that's just one sure way to prevent yourself from scaling your business. I think that for me, like, if I can get someone to do 80% of what I do, then that in general was good enough. I mean, ideally you want to be finding people that can be, that are better than you for certain areas. But if you're kind of a successful seller and you're not spending, I mean, if you've got like a 6-figure budget to hire people, then it's going to have really good experience in the business that you're in, then it's great. But it can be difficult sometimes to hire people that have more expertise. But in general, I think, if you have people that do 80% of what you can do, then that's going to be good enough for sure, because the overall thing is that you move faster.
Cool. Let's end that there. It's been a great interview. Thank you so much, Shash, for your time. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. If this is your first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you again in the next few days. Take care.